Hello and welcome back to Core Finance. I'm Matt Brown. I'm joined today by Charles Skinner, who is Chief Executive of Restore PLC. Thank you very much for coming on to Core Finance today, Charles. And just to start off, just tell us a little bit about your company.
So Restore we would be the UK's leading document management business. So we have effectively two divisions: document management, whereby we store people's documents, we shred their documents, we scan their documents, and then we also have a relocation division where we move people's offices, we recycle their IT, we recycle their toner cartridges, we move their IT around. So what we're office services. What our job is to do is to make sure that big office blocks work as efficiently as possible in the areas in which we operate.
Fantastic. And you work in both the public and private sector, is that
yes,
correct?
so the majority of our work is in the private sector. You'll find that in certain areas, if we take, say, our largest business, which is storing bits of paper in cardboard boxes, so our records management division, you'll find that every office of any scale in the private sector will have a supplier doing that for them. In the public sector, for various reasons, not all of the public sector is what we call vended in that space, but generally it's about 76% of our business is private sector, 24% public sector.
Understood. And you're based in the UK and Northern Ireland, your operations?
Yes. We believe that we have our intellectual property is about understanding our customers, so that what we understand is the UK market. So we're very firmly just interested in the UK market. There are lots of foibles about how the UK works, and that's what we understand. We understand the facilities managers and the IT managers and what their needs are in the UK, and that's what we get excited about.
That's great. And you've recently updated the market. Can you just give us a brief overview of your last update and what that means for investors?
Yes, so we announced our interim results last Monday, and fortunately everything was up. Revenues were up about 60%. Profits were up about the same again. Earnings per share were up 38%. So this was good stuff, which we were very pleased with. A big driver of that was that in the last 3 years, in 2014, we bought a business. We bought Cintas. We bought their UK document management business. 2015, we bought Wincanton. We bought their records management business. And last year, we bought PHS. We bought their document management business, and that was quite a large deal. That was sort of £85 million, and that's worked very well.
And the PHS acquisition, how has that fed through into the company?
The key, there were three elements to it. So it was a perfect fit for us because they had a records management business, which was a very steady business, which we would be the number one and the number two in that market. We're probably about 3 or 4 times the size of the number 3. We're probably number 2 in that market, and this increased our scope in that space. In our shredding business, which I suspect you and your viewers will be familiar with, particularly if they work in sectors like financial services, where you have a bin in the corner of the room, that business, we were turning over previously about 4 million, and that took our turn, and we acquired with PHS Data Shred another 33 million of revenues in that space, which took us from being an also-ran into that sector to being, again, one of the 2 main players. And that's a very exciting market that a lot of people are wholly unaware of data protection regulation. They don't understand that it's the sensible thing to do, both ecologically and in terms of staying on the right side of the law and holding the right people's data, is more and more people understand you must shred your documents. And actually, there's some big legislation coming in next year in May, the European GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulations, which are actually going to have a significant impact on people understanding what documents they store, making sure they shred everything, and also making sure that they can get easy access to it through using our scanning facilities. So we feel that what we provide is where we're the UK's number one document management business with these 3 streams. We feel we've been in a very nice place, and I guess that's what's I was telling one of your colleagues that's what's driven our share price. I think my mother bought shares at 14p in this business, and they're now £5.60.
Very, very good trade. And I think the stock was trading at £3.90 at the start of the year, and as you say, trading up to 5.60. So a fantastic move already this year. Speaking of paper shredding, as we move into a more digital age, is there a case that we will become a paperless society at some point, and therefore your business may not exist going forward?
Well, when I first started work, my first job was in 1982, and I first heard the phrase there, the paperless office is on its way. The records management industry didn't exist.
Understood.
So it's quite interesting that since the paperless office has come along, we've developed a £600 million records management industry in the UK. So, that aside, the position is that existing documents which we hold, which might be pharmaceutical records, they might be construction records, they might be legal documentation, which a lot of that stuff is going to be kept for a very long period of time, and actually it's too expensive to scan that, so it doesn't make any sense to digitize that. I think we also see that in sectors where people need to share information, that's probably more attractive to have soft copies rather than hard copies, but I think there's an awful lot of uses. Paper is a wonderful medium. If it was discovered today, everybody would go, "Oh, the physical cloud, that's amazing."
Yes.
So we know that a lot of our customers will continue to use it. I think there's a difference between where you need to share documents. So possibly in financial services or accountancy, you probably need to share documents more. That probably works better for soft. But I think in areas like law, paper is a very, very good medium, and so you don't need to share documents so much. So then paper works as well. So we have no fears about that. And probably the big area which we're doing a lot of work in our scanning business, of course, is that the sector where there is a lot of paperwork, and ideally it should all be shared, is really the NHS.
Yes.
And we have several big contracts in our scanning business for converting patients' records from hard copy into soft copy. So those are the trends that we see. We're not worried about sort of digitisation. I think increasingly we're on our relocation side we're operating in an area where there's a lot more about recycling. So recycling shredding paper, recycling toner cartridges, recycling old IT equipment. There's a lot that we're doing.
Super.
In various areas.
With regards to acquisitions, you touched on the PHS acquisition last year. What is your strategy going forward? Are you looking for large acquisitions or maybe picking up smaller companies?
Well, we've made 7 acquisitions this year, and if you look at our market position in our relocation business, we'd be comfortably the largest office removal business in the UK. In scanning, we'd be one of the two main UK operators. We're one of the two main in records management, one of the two biggest in shredding. So we expect to continue for those markets to be consolidated, but probably the sort of large swinging deals which we've done in the past, which has built us from being quite a small business to having a very powerful position in our markets. There's probably fewer of those around. But if you take an industry like, for example, shredding, that business is about route density. Obviously what we're doing is we're picking up from individual office blocks. The closer those office blocks are together, the better off you are. So we see that in an area like that where perhaps possibly the two market leaders have between them 30% of that market, we expect that market to consolidate further, and acquisitions will be a main part of that.
Understood. And looking forward to the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months, what can investors and our viewers expect to come from Restore?
Well, I think what we'll see, I'm not quite sure, having in the first 6 months of this year, I say EPS were up 38% year on year. That particularly benefited from the fact the first 6 months of last year we hadn't bought this PHS acquisition, so for the like for likes were particularly strong then.
Yes.
But what you've got is you've got some very, we're operating in pretty buoyant markets for what we do. Our services are generally acyclical. We see organic growth in the business. I think organic growth in the first 6 months of this year was 7%, slightly more than that across the entire business. So we see organic growth. We see operating margins beginning to beginning to creep up, and we see further consolidation of our markets. So we're feeling that the business looks strong for us.
Fantastic. All sounds very positive. Charles Skinner, Chief Executive of Restore PLC, thank you very much for joining us on Core Finance today.
Thanks, Matt.